Aquarius, pause for a moment. This message isn't loud, it doesn't rush you, and it's not here to warn you about the future. It's here to tell you something very specific. What was hidden is already moving back toward you. If you've been unusually quiet lately, if you stopped explaining, stopped defending, stopped trying to be understood, that wasn't weakness. That was alignment. Because the moment you went silent, someone else started carrying the weight of the truth. Speech balloon, if you feel this message touching something personal, type "I'm ready" in the comments. And stay with me, because what's returning to you is not what you expect, and the way it comes back will change how you see everything that happened before. Aquarius, when you paused like that, the world didn't stop. But something inside you did. It was subtle, not dramatic, just a quiet moment where you realized you no longer needed to be understood by everyone. That's not giving up. That's discernment. You reached a point where explaining yourself felt heavier than carrying the truth alone. So you chose lightness, and in that choice, something unseen began to rearrange itself. There is a strange law to this life. The moment you stop chasing clarity, clarity begins to chase you. You may have noticed it in small ways. Conversations feeling different, people hesitating before speaking, silences stretching longer than usual. Those pauses are not empty, they're filled with reflection. With people reviewing moments they thought were finished. With thoughts returning at night when the house is quiet. Have you felt that shift too, that sense that something unresolved is no longer resting easily on the other side? Aquarius, you carry a unique rhythm. You don't process life loudly, you process it inward, through observation, through distance, through time. And lately, distance has been your medicine. Not the kind that isolates, but the kind that clears the fog. The kind that allows you to see patterns instead of personalities. Truth instead of noise. What many people never realize is that silence doesn't erase impact, it amplifies it. When you stopped reacting, others were forced to listen to their own conscience. When you stopped asking questions, answers had nowhere to hide. There's a reason your energy feels calmer now. You're no longer standing inside the storm. You're watching it pass. And storms always leave something behind. Sometimes it's an admission. Sometimes it's an action. Sometimes it's an unexpected shift that feels almost accidental but lands exactly where it needs to. What matters is this: you didn't force the correction, you let it. That takes maturity. And it takes trust. Trust that what belongs to you does not require pursuit. It requires readiness. Let me ask you something gently. If what's returning arrives quietly, without drama, without explanation, will you recognize it? Because Aquarius, not all truths knock loudly. Some simply appear when you are steady enough to receive them. You're standing at a threshold now, not between right and wrong, but between old understanding and deeper clarity. This is where insight softens into wisdom, where healing becomes less about fixing and more about allowing. Stay here with me. There's more unfolding beneath the surface, and the next moment will reveal why this silence was never emptiness at all. Aquarius, there was a moment long before anything became clear. Not a scene, not a confrontation, just a quiet inner pause where your body reacted before your mind caught up. You felt it as a tightening in your chest, a hesitation you couldn't explain. Something subtle telling you that the story being presented was missing a chapter. That kind of knowing doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It waits patiently in the background until you are ready to listen. You tried, at first, to reason it away. You told yourself not everything needs answers, that maybe time would smooth it out. But the feeling stayed, not loud, just steady. And that steadiness mattered. Because intuition is not about suspicion, it is about recognition. It is the soul noticing a misalignment before the world admits there is one. You didn't accuse anyone. You didn't demand explanations. You simply stopped leaning forward. You stopped offering your energy to something that felt unfinished. That withdrawal wasn't dramatic, it was graceful. For someone like you, Aquarius, stepping back is not avoidance. It is how you protect clarity. You observe patterns over time. You let life reveal itself instead of forcing conclusions. And here is the part most people misunderstand. Your silence did not come from doubt. It came from trust. Trust in your internal compass. Trust that truth doesn't need chasing to eventually be seen. Have you noticed how often your first feeling turns out to be the accurate one, even when it makes no logical sense at the time? That is not coincidence. That is intelligence expressed through intuition. By choosing not to fight for validation, you created space, and space has a way of exposing imbalance. When no one is filling the silence, reality speaks for itself. Some people respond to that kind of quiet by reflecting. Others respond by becoming uneasy. Both reactions serve the same purpose. You may not know exactly what shifted yet. You don't need to. Your role was never to solve the entire story. Your role was to notice when the energy changed and honor that noticing. There is wisdom in stepping aside before resentment takes root. There is strength in choosing self-respect over immediate answers. This is not about being right. It is about being aligned. Let me ask you something gently. If you had ignored that first inner signal, where would you be standing now? You listened. And because you listened, the narrative began to rearrange itself without you having to touch it. That decision altered the trajectory. Not loudly, not visibly, but permanently. Stay present with that awareness. Something deeper is still forming. And what comes next will make sense only because you trusted yourself before the evidence appeared. There is a quiet gravity here now, not heavy, just undeniable. You are remembering something without forcing it. A subtle pull in the chest, a moment when you realize that what mattered was never small, even if others treated it that way. Value does not vanish because it was ignored. And you, of all souls, know this. What was involved was real, not symbolic, not imagined. It was time you offered without keeping score. Trust you extended when it would have been easier to stay detached. Resources, energy, access, presence. Pieces of your life that carried weight, even when spoken about lightly. Aquarius often gives from a place beyond transaction. You give because it feels aligned. Because you believe in shared progress. Because you see the future before others are ready to name it. And yet, something was crossed, not loudly, not dramatically, but enough for your inner compass to shift a single degree. That small shift changed everything. You may have wondered if it was worth naming, if speaking up would have cost more than staying quiet. So you chose stillness, not weakness, wisdom. You stepped back and let the space speak for you. That choice did not erase what was taken. It preserved it. Here is something rarely said out loud. The universe does not operate on memory the way humans do. Nothing is lost because someone forgot to acknowledge it. Nothing dissolves because it was taken politely or without witnesses. Every exchange leaves an energetic signature, and that signature stays active until balance is restored. What belonged to you did not disappear. It did not need to chase. It did not need to demand. It waited in a quieter realm, a place where timing matters more than volume, where truth ripens instead of rotting. This is where your story deepens, because Aquarius does not seek revenge. You seek correction, alignment, a world that makes sense again. And the return you are approaching is not just about getting something back. It is about being seen clearly in the aftermath. There is a moment coming where recognition arrives without you having to rehearse your pain, where fairness restores itself without apology. It may look like a conversation, or an offer, or a sudden shift that repositions you above what once diminished you. The form is flexible. The principle is not. Let me ask you something gently. If what was taken were placed back in your hands today, would you even want it in its old form? Or has your understanding of your own worth expanded beyond what it once cost? Because here is the truth that feels almost sacred. What returns never comes back unchanged. It carries interest, insight, perspective. You receive it with stronger boundaries and clearer eyes, not to relive the past, but to close it properly. You did not imagine the imbalance. You did not exaggerate the loss. And you did not miss your chance. You were early. And the universe has a long memory. Stay present with that knowing. Not tense, not alert, just aware. Because what waited this long is finally ready to move again. There is a quiet contrast now. While your inner world softened, theirs grew louder. You chose rest. They chose replay. Some nights they stare at the ceiling, counting moments instead of hours. Not dramatic, just restless. That kind of restlessness that comes when the mind knows something the heart has avoided. They scroll through old conversations, not to reach out, just to feel the edge of what was real. You see, Aquarius, peace does not come from winning. It comes from alignment, and alignment asks uncomfortable questions. Questions they postponed when it felt easier to walk away from your truth. Now those questions have learned how to knock. There is weight on their chest that sleep cannot solve. Not because they miss you in a romantic way, but because your presence represented something honest, something clean, something they could not bargain with. And when someone steps away from integrity, the body remembers. You were never loud about your value. That is what made it unforgettable. You did not demand. You embodied. And that is why the memory of you does not fade. It matures. They replay decisions, wondering when the shift happened. Was it the moment they chose comfort over courage? Was it the moment they assumed you would always be there? Or was it the quiet instant when they realized you stopped needing them to see you? Here is something most people do not talk about. When an Aquarius withdraws with clarity, it activates a mirror. Not a dramatic one. A precise one. It shows people who they were when they had a choice. And that mirror has been following them. Into conversations. Into pauses. Into the space between breaths. Integrity is not punishment. It is an invitation. An invitation to return to what was mishandled. You are not responsible for their awakening, But your healing became the signal. Because when you stopped chasing resolution, resolution turned around. That is cosmic balance at work. There is a difference between regret and recognition. Regret wants relief. Recognition wants repair. And they are standing somewhere between the two, unsure which path they are ready to take. Ask yourself gently, if they came back not with words but with truth, would you recognize the difference? Would your nervous system soften? Or would it stay alert? You are no longer the version of yourself that waits to be chosen. You are the version that observes energy, that listens beneath language, that honors timing as wisdom, not delay. Whatever they are carrying now is not yours to lift. It is theirs to understand, and the universe is very patient when it comes to lessons about integrity. Stay where you are, grounded, clear, open without reaching. What aligns will move toward you without force, and what cannot will learn why distance exists. There is a reason the quiet still surrounds you, not the kind that feels empty, the kind that feels intentional, like the universe placing a gentle hand on your shoulder and saying, stay here a moment longer. You have already done the speaking that mattered, through your choices, through what you stopped tolerating, through the way your energy no longer rushes to fix what is not yours. Silence now is not avoidance, it is precision. When you do not confront, something subtle happens. The noise shifts outward. People begin to speak around you instead of at you. They fill the space you left behind with their own truths, unedited, unprotected. This is why you are being asked to pause your voice. Because every explanation weakens the mirror. Every defense interrupts the lesson. And Aquarius, you are not here to manage other people's comfort anymore. There is a clarity that arrives only when you stop narrating your pain. You have reached it. You feel it in your body, in how your breath has slowed, in how your reactions no longer jump ahead of your awareness. Silence creates contrast. It separates intention from impulse. Those who are aligned will feel closer without a single word exchanged. Those who are not will feel exposed. And exposure is where truth lives. You are not being asked to disappear. You are being asked to observe, to let timing speak, to allow actions to outweigh promises. This is not about control. It is about allowing reality to show itself without interference. There is something deeply Aquarian about this moment. You understand systems, patterns, cause and effect. You know that when energy is left alone, it organizes itself honestly. Intervention distorts data, so you stay quiet, not cold, not distant, just centered. And in that centeredness, you begin to see clearly who is moving from fear and who is moving from truth. Notice how people behave when they think you are no longer watching. Notice what they volunteer without being asked. Notice who respects the silence and who tries to break it for reassurance. This is not a test of patience. It is a calibration of worth. Ask yourself softly, does this situation still require my voice? Or has it reached the point where truth speaks louder on its own? There is wisdom in restraint, especially for someone like you who sees far ahead. You are not late. You are not missing anything. You are exactly where leverage exists. Silence right now is an act of self-respect. It protects your nervous system. It preserves your clarity. It gives the universe room to rearrange consequences without your emotional labor. And when the moment comes to speak again, if it comes at all, your words will land differently. Because they will not come from urgency. They will come from authority. Until then, stay still in this knowing. What is real does not need to be chased. It will find you. There is something important your heart should know as you stay in this quiet space. What is finding its way back to you will not arrive wearing regret. It will not kneel. It will not explain itself. Because life rarely corrects itself through words. It corrects itself through movement. You may notice it first as a shift in circumstance. A door that opens without effort. A message that feels oddly timed. An opportunity that seems neutral on the surface but heavy with meaning underneath. This is how balance returns when dignity is involved. For someone like you, an apology was never the real need. You wanted alignment. You wanted reality to admit what it took. And the universe understands that truth does not always require admission. It requires restoration. So what comes back may look ordinary to others. A collaboration, a role, a chance that was once denied now offered casually, but you will feel it. That quiet internal click that says, this is not random. Correction does not announce itself. It adjusts the scales quietly and keeps moving. And when it happens this way, it protects your growth. It does not pull you backward into old emotional loops. It meets you where you are now. There is wisdom in this design. An apology asks you to reopen a wound. Correction closes it without spectacle. Notice how your body responds when this return appears. Not excitement, not relief, but steadiness. That calm knowing that nothing needs to be proven anymore. This is where your maturity shows. You no longer need acknowledgement to validate what you lived through. You recognize truth by how it integrates into your life, not by how loudly it is spoken. And here is the subtle power in this moment. When the return comes disguised as opportunity, you are not obligated to accept it the old way. You choose from clarity now, not from lack. Ask yourself gently, does this honor who I have become? Or does it only try to correct what was missed before? You are allowed to receive without reopening history. You are allowed to benefit without explaining your silence. You are allowed to say yes or no without guilt. This is the kind of return that respects evolution. It does not drag the past forward. It adjusts the future quietly. Aquarius, this is not about winning. It is about balance restoring itself around you. About life acknowledging value without drama. About energy returning to its rightful place. When it arrives, you will not rush. You will not chase meaning. You will stand where you are and let it come to you. And in that stillness, something else becomes clear. You were never waiting for an apology. You were waiting for the universe to speak your truth in action. Stay present for what unfolds next. Because what follows this correction is not repetition. It is a new pattern forming quietly around you. There is a softness in you now that did not exist before. Not weakness. Not resignation. Something quieter. Something wiser. You can feel it when you look back at moments that once demanded answers. They no longer pull at your chest. They no longer ask you to defend your truth. The story did not vanish. You simply outgrew the version of yourself that needed to live inside it. This is the shift that matters most. Not the return. Not the correction. But the inner distance you have created from needing to be right. At some point, you chose calm over noise. You chose to stop rehearsing conversations that would never happen. You chose rest over reaction. And quietly, without ceremony, your nervous system learned a new language. This is where your power matured. You realized that being understood is not the same as being free. That clarity does not need witnesses. That peace does not require agreement. Notice how different your energy feels now. You do not enter rooms looking for validation. You observe.
You sense.
You decide when something deserves access to your inner world. This is not detachment from life. It is discernment. Aquarius, this is what emotional adulthood looks like. Not indifference, but sovereignty. You stop trying to rewrite the past. And in doing so, you release the future from repeating it. Life responds quickly when it feels that shift. When it knows you are no longer feeding old narratives with fresh energy. Balance can only return when the lesson is complete. And yours is complete now. Ask yourself something gently. If nothing ever came back, would you still feel whole? That quiet yes inside you is the evidence. You no longer need circumstances to confirm your growth. You feel it in how you breathe, in how you pause before responding, in how you walk away without explaining. This is why life can now rearrange itself in your favor. Not because you demanded justice, but because you became unavailable to chaos. You changed the frequency, and the universe adjusted accordingly. There is a subtle joy in this phase. Not excitement, not celebration, but relief. Relief from carrying stories that were never meant to be permanent. Relief from proving your worth to systems that could not measure it. Relief from waiting to be chosen when you had already chosen yourself. This is healing that does not announce itself. It shows up as steadiness, as trust in timing, as the ability to sit with uncertainty without fear. And from here, something new becomes possible. Not a continuation of the old path, but a cleaner one. One that does not require resistance to move forward. You are not closing a chapter. You already closed it the moment peace felt more valuable than being understood. Stay here for a moment. In this calm, in this clarity. Because what comes next is not about correction anymore. It is about creation. And you are finally free enough to choose it consciously. Stay with me here for a moment. Let everything soften. This Sunday carries a quieter kind of light, not the kind that demands attention. The kind that settles gently on your shoulders and reminds you that you are safe now. You have done enough becoming, enough understanding, enough letting go. What matters today is presence. When you move slowly through this day, notice how little you need to say to feel grounded. Notice how your awareness sharpens when you are not explaining yourself to the world. There is a calm intelligence in you that only surfaces when words step aside. This is not withdrawal, it is alignment. Truth has its own timing. It does not need to be chased or corrected or cornered into confession. Truth walks. And when it walks back to you, it arrives steady, without drama, without noise. You will recognize it not by surprise, but by familiarity. A sense of yes in the body. A deep exhale you did not know you were holding. Aquarius, you are learning something sacred right now, that what belongs to you does not require pursuit. It responds to readiness. And readiness is not impatience. It is peace. There was a time when receiving would have reopened wounds. When return would have felt heavy, complicated, tangled with memory. but that version of you has already dissolved. Now, when life offers something back, you are able to meet it cleanly, without rewriting the past, without defending your growth, without shrinking or hardening. Ask yourself quietly, can I receive this without pain? If the answer is yes, you are exactly where you need to be. This is why observation matters now. When you listen more than you speak, patterns reveal themselves. When you pause, intentions show their true shape. When you remain still, energy reorganizes around your clarity. Silence is no longer a shield for you. It is a signal. It tells the universe you trust the process. That you are not rushing meaning. That you are no longer afraid of waiting. And waiting, for you, is not emptiness. It is fertile space. You have always been ahead of your time, seeing futures before they fully formed, feeling shifts before language caught up. Now you are learning the final lesson, how to let life meet you halfway. There is dignity in this posture. A quiet authority that does not announce itself. A knowing that does not need validation. This Sunday is not about doing less. It is about being more present in who you already are. Say, not because you are holding back, but because everything important is already understood. Observe more, because wisdom arrives in subtleties now. Let truth find its way to you naturally, without pressure, without performance. You are no longer running toward outcomes. You are standing in alignment, allowing what is yours to recognize you. And when it arrives, it will feel simple, clean, unforced. Stay open to that simplicity. Stay gentle with yourself as it unfolds, because this is not the end of the story. It is the moment the story finally begins to move with you. Before you go, stay with this feeling just a little longer. Let it settle into your chest. That quiet steadiness you feel right now is not imagination. It is recognition. Aquarius, you did not find this message by accident. And you did not stay because of curiosity alone. Something in you knew this moment mattered. Knew this was a pause meant for your soul, not just your mind. What you have felt through this journey is not prediction. It is alignment, a remembering of who you are when the noise fades. When you stop chasing clarity and allow clarity to come to you. There is a gentleness in your strength that the world often misunderstands. But tonight, here, it is honored. Your silence, your patience, your ability to wait without losing yourself. This is Aquarius wisdom. Quiet, visionary, unshaken. If something in this message touched you, do not brush it away. That small inner yes is your intuition speaking clearly. Trust it. You have learned how. I want you to know this. You are not alone in this frequency. There are others listening right now who feel the same calm awakening. Different lives, same truth. If you feel called, leave a comment. Not to explain your story. Just a word, a symbol, a simple yes. Let the universe know you received the message. And if this space feels safe to you, stay connected. Subscribe. Not out of habit, but out of trust. Because this is not a one-time moment. This is a continuing conversation. The journey does not end here. There are more messages unfolding, more clarity arriving, more light finding its way to you gently, in its own time. The next message is already forming, and when it arrives, it will meet you exactly where you are. Until then, carry this energy with you. Say less when needed. Observe more when unsure, and trust yourself deeply. You have always known the way. Tonight was just a reminder.